be asked by John Nolan and Sidney Sims, leaders in the Homeless Against Homelessness. Gentlemen, please come up and ask your question.
Madam Moderator, thank you all. My name is John Nolan. I'm a formerly homeless individual from Minneapolis and an advocate for housing justice. Right now, zoning regulations in Minneapolis, specifically Section 537.110, require a homeless shelter to be housed in an active faith-based facility. If you're elected to the City Council, would you be willing to change that regulation? And in what other ways can we better serve people experiencing homelessness? Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Sidney Sims. Apparently I can't project as well as the other candidates, but I have a question for them. My name, I am also a formerly homeless individual living in Minneapolis. The Minneapolis Affordable Housing Trust Fund has been successful tools for attracting leveraged construction, financing for both new and renovated housing units. However, since its inception, it has been chronically underfinanced, and often the projects are not in targeted poverty areas. The question for the candidates: if elected, what modifications to this and other similar programs would you propose?
You said that one time.
Okay. However, since the inception, it has been chronically underfinanced, and often the projects are not in targeted poverty areas. Reference the Minneapolis Affordable Housing Trust Funds. They are responsible for the units that goes up in the city.
Thank you, gentlemen. And the first candidate to answer this question will be Brett Buckner. You have 2 minutes.
Having a home, having somewhere where you can actually have a roof over your head, especially in a climate like Minnesota, it's not just critical, it's no other way around it. You have to have something stable. And when you start off, the city of Minneapolis has a responsibility, in my opinion, to work with also Henry County and other partners to provide all opportunities to eliminate homelessness. And I've signed on to that effort a long time ago. To do this through the, to work with our faith-based organizations. And there's some great organizations like St. Stephen's that are major leaders on this. To make sure that we're able to have houses, shelter for everybody is critical. So I would like to be able to change, to be able to allow for the faith-based organizations to do what they need to do to house everybody. There should be nobody on the streets in Minneapolis without a roof over their head, without something to eat. We're going to get back to that principle in the city of Minneapolis, getting back to our progressive ideas. As it relates to the funding of the housing fund for the city of Minneapolis, Gary Schiff has been working on this really hard, and I wholeheartedly support him on this. I want to push very hard to find other partners to be able to fund whatever projects necessary in order to make sure that we fully fund that fund.
The next candidate will be Blanc Yang, 2 minutes.
With regard to the housing homeless issue you talked about regarding zoning, I think that we need to change those zoning ordinances so that they work for people here. And you know, while we're at it, we should change a lot of our zoning ordinances, but also a lot of our ordinances in our Minneapolis ordinances, because they're a bit outdated, and we need to really change a lot of those regulations so that those things can, work for people who are in this 21st century. The second issue, let me just say this. I mean, you both asked about what other ways to help the homeless, what other ways to help with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and anything like that. Let me just say this, okay? We make these issues so complicated, but think about this. Minneapolis is giving $600 million to the Minnesota Vikings in the next 30 years. If we had the will to eliminate homelessness, we could fund that with $600 million more to take care of that issue. And the fact that we're not doing that is just a tragedy, really, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about political will, people. And the fact of the matter is that we don't have the political will to do those things, but we have the political will to give corporate welfare to the wills, but not to eliminate homelessness. And I think that's a crisis that we have in Minneapolis, and that's a crisis we have all across the nation. I mean, we have organizations like NOC who's trying to fight this good fight, but I mean, really, our government can take care of this with one fell swoop, and the fact that we haven't done that is just a crime, I think.
The next candidate will be Ian Alexander. You have 2 minutes.
Really quickly to answer your question, yes, I would be in favor of changing the ordinance. And I've actually visited the church, and I'm going to totally blank on the name of it, but there's a church right over on Emerson, between Emerson and Fremont, over on 22nd, I believe. And there's actually a homeless shelter in that location right now, and I've been there a number of times. And actually they can't even improve their shelter, because if they put another bathroom in that area, according to the way the zoning code is written, then they wouldn't qualify to actually use that location as a shelter. So currently right now everyone's sharing one bathroom, which is quite crazy. Discussing the other issue about the affordable housing, this is an issue really that is very, very frustrating for me, because when you look at how much money has gone in that trust fund, it went from, and I know this is going to seem really wonky, but I think it went from $9 million a few years ago to $6 million. But the reality is that even though it has decreased from 9 to 6, they're required to do twice as many things with that money. So it seems like politicians talk a lot about doing things for the homeless and doing things for those that do not have the means to take care of themselves. But when push comes to shove, often the big money controls where the money is spent. And so I would say that if it were up to me, I would definitely want to sit on the Community Development Committee, elected, to push for more funding. But I also would like to do something else, which is to work more closely with people like Alan Arthur with Aon and a number of other organizations to actually locate a lot of housing on the north side, because what people don't realize is a lot of the quote-unquote subsidized low-income housing, to live there, a lot of people are making $40,000 a year. So, as a matter of fact, a lot of people that live in the neighborhood are making less money that own homes than the subsidized housing that are being built around. So that's something that I would like to work on. Thank you.
And finally, Cale Severson. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first I must say that housing should be a right in Minnesota, not a choice. Folks should always have somewhere to lay their head at night, especially in the cold winters. But yes, I would definitely support some zoning changes. Not everybody uses faith-based organizations to help better themselves. So we need to find, we need to be fully inclusive for everybody, including the homeless folks that we have here in Minneapolis. But I think, the better question, I work with quite a few homeless youth. I actually encourage a lot of the homeless families to send their kids to North High School, because I believe we provide the best services for the families. But I think the better question is how do we form a pathway to get these folks into permanent housing instead of transitional housing? So I think that's a bigger question that needs that we need to have discussions around. The other part of it is how do we help these organizations be more financially feasible? With the Green Party, do we talk about, do we put solar panels on these roofs? Do we help these churches with geothermal heating and cooling? How do we make it more, how do we stretch that dollar a little bit more so we can help that one extra person and not shut the door on that person because there's not any beds left at that site?
Thank you so much.